I was standing outside of their offices. It was across the street from Grand Central Station, 110 East 42nd Street. I'll never forget. I pick up my phone and I just called 212-450-1200 to get the reception. I tell the receptionist my life story. I tell her I know I've moved all across from California to New York just to basically get a job and earn an internship or a chance to help soccer grow in America. She gives me the vice president of marketing, Mark Noonan. He heard my story and then he helped me get an internship. 3 months later, they offered me a full time job as a coordinator of fan development, and the rest is kind of history. So,
Hi, welcome to Beyond the Field, a show where I take you off the field and into your favorite sports, team, and events. I'm your host Nadeem Sheikh, and I'll be talking to industry professionals like me and provide you guys a 360-degree view of the thriving sports industry of India. Today, I have with me Neel Shah, a sports management professional with over 20 years of experience working in the development and commercialization of sports in North America, Europe, and Asia. He's currently the head of sports education at India Organic, a sports marketing agency focused on creating impactful sports properties, programs in India and beyond. Welcome, Neel.
thank you, Nadeem. Good to be here.
Nice. So Neil has a very vast experience, and Neil, firstly, I want you to introduce yourself to our viewers and give your professional and educational background.
Sure. So, I grew up in Southern California, hence the very strong American accent here, and grew up playing sport, loving sport. So, not a surprise that I wanted to work in professional sports. I ended up doing my MBA in sports management. It's a place called Seton Hall University. It's in New Jersey. Went on to work with Major League Soccer for a number of years. In 2009, after 7 years at Major League Soccer, I had this very strong um, calling to move to India to support the growth of football in this country, sport that really was close to my heart. Football, soccer in America. So I'm just clear when I'm saying football. It's also
That's right.
soccer.
That's right.
And so I moved here in 2009 and have held a number of positions. I know we might chat about them a bit later over the last 14, 15 years. And yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible career where I've got to work in both the US and now India. And I feel really proud about the kind of experiences I've been able to have and all the impact I've had in the industry.
Great. I want to understand, how did you develop interest in sports?
Yeah, so growing up in California, it's a place called Huntington Beach. It's in Orange County, just south of Los Angeles, in between LA and San Diego. And I was growing up in the 1980s, very kind of more white community. There were some Indians around, but mostly people who are, Americans from America. And so my brother and I, it was a very tricky time. We were proper ABCDs, right? The American born confused ACs. My parents had immigrated from villages in Gujarat and another town in Gujarat as well. And so I was trying to figure out, who am I? Am I Indian? Am I American? What am I? And I noticed that there was a lot of insecurity, sometimes lack of confidence, lack of just feeling like I'm not fitting in. And really, the only time during those early days that I felt like I really fit in, as one of the kind of people who were in my hometown, was on the playing field. So I was playing a lot of soccer at that time. I was playing a lot of basketball, volleyball, American football, and all of that was just. It's almost like time stopped when I was there, and I felt like completely, just one of the guys in a lot of ways. And I think that confidence, that feeling of like I'm adding value, I'm offering something, people like me, people appreciate me, they respect me. I think it was addicting, and it just made me want to play more and then consume more sport. And as time went on, it just became so much a part of my DNA.
Great, great. I want you to talk about the two books that you've published.
Yeah, it's something I'm really proud of. I never thought I would actually write a book. I love writing. I've written a blog. I've kept it. It's called Live India, Love Football. It's been around since 2009. It's a lot about my experiences here. But writing a book, it's like running a marathon, as we were talking about earlier. It's a whole big kind of thing that feels almost like overwhelming to be able to do, especially when you have a full-time job and other responsibilities in your life. But the first book I wrote that actually came out second. So the first book I wrote that came out second is called Your Dream Career. And during the pandemic, it just kind of came out of me. It was something I had been doing some TEDx talks on, about this concept of how do you make a career a natural extension of yourself. So wherever you are as a person and as you evolve, how do you make your vocation or your job very much an extension of your natural self? And what that means is that as you're living, it's almost like your work is like it's so natural too. It doesn't feel like work at all. And that evolves as we grow. So I've had a career in over 20 years that's been like that. All my jobs, a lot of my experiences have been just naturally me. And so it's been very easy, not taxing on my mental health or physical health because I just get to do what I not even love to do, but I naturally do well. And so I wrote a book about that. It's my own journey, it's other people's journey who's been able to kind of make that happen. And what does can the reader do to make this a reality? So that's called Your Dream Career. And that came out second and it poured out of me. The second one was more of a just by chance. My agent, my literary agent, was talking to a publisher, and that publisher wanted a book about Indian football to come out around the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And it was, because every year, every 4 years, when the men's World Cup happens and all these people are watching on TV in India, they feel like, hey, how come India's not here? Why are we not here? We're doing well in cricket. We've won World Cups. We've hosted World Cups. What's going on with football? And so he wanted a book. The editor of his publishing house wanted a book that comes out that was answers that question. So in 2021, I got offered an opportunity to write a commission book, which is basically about the past, present, and future of football in India. Something I know very well, something I'm very passionate about. So I wrote the book. It's called Awakening the Blue Tigers, and I had a co-author named Gaurav Bala. He's the head of broadcast content at FSDL and a fantastic person. So together, him and I wrote that book.
Wonderful. After graduating after passing out from sports management, you got a job at MLS. I want to understand firstly, how did you get the job, and what sort of work did you do as a director of fan development?
Yeah. I'm one of those lucky people who like figured out his dream job when he was really young and then just went for it and got it. And so when I was 16 years old, I was clear that I wanted to work in professional football. I had gone to a couple of career counselors and they had kind of guided me with these assessments to do something in finance or do something in analytics. And it didn't really feel right for me. And at that time, I was just so madly in love with this sport that I was like, if I'm not going to be a professional player, I'm going to be somebody who works with the sport for the rest of my life. And so it just worked out that when I was 16, it was 1996. You can get a sense of how old I am. And MLS launched in 1996. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. I want a job in professional soccer, and this league is there. And when I graduate university, I'm going to go work for them. So I did everything I could to learn about the sports industry, to develop myself to become a better professional, to one day craft that interview and do well at the league office. And I did a bunch of internships. I did a bunch of like leadership classes and this and that. I ended up doing my MBA in sports management, as I mentioned. And about a couple months into the program, I'd already written to MLS, but it was just a pretty young league then. Even then, it was only 6 years old in 2002, and it was in New York City. And my office, my institute was in New Jersey, and I thought like I gotta find a way to get in. So basically, what ended up happening, long story short, is I was standing outside of their offices. It was across the street from Grand Central Station, 110 East 42nd Street. I'll never forget. I pick up my phone and I just called 212-450-1200 to get the reception. I tell the receptionist my life story. I tell her I know I've moved all across from California to New York just to basically get a job and earn an internship or a chance to help soccer grow in America. She gives me the vice president of marketing, Mark Noonan. He heard my story and then he helped me get an internship. 3 months later, they offered me a full time job as a coordinator of fan development, and the rest is kind of history. So that's how it happened.
That's an amazing story, most of the people underestimate the power of cold calling. It happens. What is the downside to it is just the person on the other side will say no.
Yeah.
But what if he says yes?
Yeah.
Your work is going to get done, and people should always try and work on all of these soft skills like cold calling and cold emailing. I think it works for it. It has worked for me also for this podcast and otherwise as well. I think it's a very underestimated activity.
Absolutely. It changed the course of my life, and I'm really grateful that the receptionist and Mark Noonan took me seriously at that time, and also I took a risk to just put myself out there.
What do you think are the three key factors that leagues should look at while engaging with fans?
Yeah, yeah, and as I mean, I think you'd asked earlier as well about what did I do as the fan development director. Because eventually, the couple years as coordinator became manager, then became director of the fan development department, which was an incredible experience at MLS, especially during that early stages. So even at that time, some of the work that I was doing was, I was helping the league create programs and platforms and partnerships to promote MLS and really the sport of soccer around the country. So I was working with administrative bodies like US Youth Soccer, US Soccer, AYSO, and others just to get more and more people aware that this league exists and why they should watch it. I also spent a lot of time working with our clubs. So we had a number of clubs. I would spend time with their marketing team and their ops teams and the rest of their departments so they can build more of a connection with their local communities. And I would bring in best practices from the league office and actually bring them in and support and champion what they're doing. And then finally, there's many other things, but one of the big ones was international clubs would play in America. We would actually host those matches. So this would be like Manchester United, FC Barcelona, Real Madrid, AC Milan, and our another part of our company, Soccer United Marketing, would organize those matches. So I was working with all of the stakeholders to ensure that while those matches were going on in America, that MLS fans were also being developed as well. So because we would end up having 80 to 90 to 100,000 people come out and watch a Manchester United AC Milan match in Los Angeles. But how does LA Galaxy benefit from that? And I would spend a lot of time figuring out ways to make sure that there was some sort of overlap or collaboration with the MLS teams if these international matches were happening. So, Neil, I wanted to tell our viewers, how did your journey lead you to becoming an associate dean of a sports management institute like GISB? Yes. So when I moved to India in 2009, after working with Major League Soccer for 7 years, I had this strong intention that I wanted to help grow the Indian football industry. I wanted to help it thrive. And I worked in a number of roles and had great opportunities to experience a lot of what's happening within not just football, but sports in India. And, as time was going on, I realized that one of the things holding us back from reaching our full potential in sports in this country is not necessarily lack of funding or lack of infrastructure or lack of talent, as a lot of people say. In a lot of ways, I felt like it was the lack of trained and qualified resources. People who can help build the business of sport, make it grow, sustain, expand, innovate. And so that was always kind of in my heart. The second part of it is that around 2016, 2017, I was the CEO of the DSK Shivajins and the Liverpool FC International Academy in Pune. And at that time, I was working with, as teaching at Symbiosis as a visiting faculty, their MBA in sports management program. Great opportunity for me to go from a guest lecturer, which I've been doing for a long time, to now actually creating content and delivering it. And that was something that was a really eye-opening experience. And during that time, I realized that I love education. I mean, I always liked it, but I really enjoyed it more than I ever thought I would. And that was also a time where I know I wanted to help, as the CEO, help DSK Shivajins generate more income and have more impact. And we had a beautiful campus. So on one of my drives back from Love Lake campus and the Symbiosis campus and back to my home in Pune, I started working on a business plan for a sports management institute that we established at the Loney campus for DSK. And one thing led to another, and everything was kind of put together. And unfortunately, DSK went through some challenging times. And it just worked out that India on Track was looking at doing something similar, was setting up a world class industry design sports management institute. So in 2017, when DSK was kind of in a situation where they weren't able to activate on this idea, me and our chairman, Gaurav Madwell, decided to work together and put GISB in place. And in 2018, we opened up our campus. And so it's been an incredible 6 years. And being the associate dean in what I believe to be the best sports management institute in Asia has been a wonderful experience. Great, great. What do you think are the emerging trends in the Indian sports industry and how GISB is equipping the students adapt to that? In the emerging trends are a lot of what you've probably been hearing quite a bit as well about AI and AR, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence, of course. You have the like all the different new technology that's out there, what we're seeing with ChatGPT and everything else, and how do we use these platforms, use this software, use this technology to further our sports enterprises, our sports organizations. And something else that we're seeing more of globally and a little bit in India slowly is sustainability in sport. So environmental sustainability, green, looking at green projects as well. So that's something that I'm starting to see with new projects that are coming up, and also smart stadiums. So right now, for the longest times, we've been looking at stadiums that are owned by the government and managed by the government in a lot of ways, and then the private organizations come and rent them out. However, over time, you're going to see more and more private investors in sport build their own stadiums, like you see in other parts of the world. And in those stadiums, we wouldn't want them to just be the regular run-of-the-mill stadiums. You'd want to see them be smart and connected stadiums. A lot of what you're seeing in kind of more developed sporting markets. And how do we have our students connect with that? Well, and learn about that, stay in tune. A lot because we're industry designed and industry connected, our students are learning real time what's going on. So they're learning from people who are working on these areas right now in their spaces, in their organizations. They're coming in and teaching our program. So right off the bat, our students are learning about what's happening not 20 years ago, but what's happening in 2024 and what they're preparing for over the next decade. The second thing is that our students are working with international organizations. They're doing live projects with the likes of Major League Soccer and Major League Cricket, and talking to the NBA and talking to Major League Baseball. So they're seeing what's happening with best practice internationally. And because of our relationship with the University of Massachusetts Amherst, we have PhDs from that program who come over to India and actually teach our students. And these are the PhDs who are doing their research in some of these topics. So they're actually doing some groundbreaking, path-breaking research and coming in and teaching our students about what are the finding and results of that research and how do you apply it as well.
Great, great. And it would be interesting for our viewers to know if there are any success stories or people who graduated from GISB and what are the organizations that they have been placed at.
Yeah, so for anybody who's involved in any education program in any subject matter in the world, your trophies, the things that your achievements, the things that you're most excited about are those individuals that you've seen from the early days and have gone on and make an impact in the fields that we all care about. So, I mean, I have so many, but the ones that start to come to mind right off the bat is one of them is a young woman named Leah Poonawalla. She's from here, from Bombay, and she came in loving football. Or she was a great women's footballer, and we really thought that she might go and work in the space of women's football and be a leader in that space. But then she did a live project for Mashal Sports in the Pro Kabaddi League, and she was one of 6 students that did that. And she as well as the others just blew away the team at Mashal Sports. They were really impressed with what they put together. So it wasn't a surprise that soon afterwards they offered them an internship, and Leah was one of the few people who got then turned that into a full-time job. And now, many years later, she's actually one of the leaders at Mashal Sports, putting on the Pro Kabaddi League. She's been a great resource for them, and she's been a great ambassador for GISB because our students get to experience that as well. So it was just incredible to see her go from what she thought she was going to do to now becoming a leader in one of our top leagues here in India, and a great case study for the world, which is the PKL. Another one that comes to mind is Adarsh Singh. Adarsh is also here from Bombay, and when he came into the program, he was already a part of the supporters club, the Blue Pilgrims, which represents the Indian national team. He also was part of the West Coast Brigade, which is with Mumbai City FC, and he was a hardcore Chelsea supporter as well. And his dream was to do this program and then find a way to contribute to them professionally, not just as a supporter as part of the clubs. And when he graduated, he got a job with Engage Digital Partners, and they are the agency for Chelsea. So right off the bat, he got to not only experience, you know, being a Chelsea supporter, but he now is working with them directly as part of the digital marketing agency. Then he moved over to Meraki Sports, where he got to work on projects for the West Coast Brigade and the Blue Pilgrims as well. So amazing to see this person go from supporter, he like turned passion into profession in a lot of ways. And the last one I'd say is Sakshi Shah. Sakshi was somebody was a fresher. She did a pre-course internship with Wordsworth, went through the program. They hired her after the course, and now she is literally involved in every sports property I can even imagine because Wordsworth is everywhere as a PR firm, and actually is just incredibly accessible and available and passionate. And you really see this young woman has grown into already a path breaker and pioneer in our industry. And I remember when she was just raw, and it's just so wonderful to see what the program allowed for her to access.
And when you spoke about others, even I'm a Mumbai City fan and a part of a West Coast Brigade. So I have seen others, met him at stadiums. And also at Meraki, also, there are a couple of people that I know, and Adarsh is a very good guy, very intelligent and has a very keen understanding of sports.
Yes.
Yes. Moving forward, Neil, what do you think are the challenges young sports professionals will find while entering in the industry?
Yeah, so the industry is evolving. It's evolving fast. So there was a time where, it's much more about the leagues or much more about like a couple of agencies and you just kind of like gotta anchor into one of them or a few of them and know what they do and then try to get a job in them. Now I feel like, especially in India in a lot of ways, like the industry is growing exponentially. Every quarter things are evolving, new technologies, new just new ways of looking at the industry. So I feel like young people, they just have to keep reading and keep evolving and keep growing to be able to meet the rapid pace that the industry is growing. Something else that's come up is that there was a point probably many years ago where you could be a generalist and just get a job because you're really passionate and you might like know somebody or you have some good communication skills. But now the industry actually expects some level of domain knowledge or domain expertise. And that's really important that the students not only understand the basics of sports business, but they also understand some aspect of digital marketing or sponsorship sales or strategy or broadcast or law or whatever it might be. So they actually can get hired in those specific roles rather than just being learning on the job as we used to be able to do. I think those two are very big. In general, though, I'd also say, and this is just an issue for the sports industry, is that when the government changes or when there's like shifts in policies or others, it also impacts the sports industry a lot, especially here in India. I noticed. You even see what's happening with the All India Football Federation presidency and the general secretary, and things keep shifting and in exciting ways, like when you look at maybe bidding for the Olympics, which we've talked about or just came out a couple months back. There's exciting things, but also if something changes at the top, maybe that whole mentality or that excitement around that changes as well. So now as a young person, you can like align yourself towards something, but if everything starts to shift out of your control, you don't know kind of where to go at that point. You have to find another pathway. Yeah, macroeconomics plays a major role while identifying things and working towards it. A lot of our viewers are young professionals who are looking up in the sports industry, trying to figure out how they can join the industry. If they are looking out for Sports Management Institute, what are the courses that GISB offers? I mean, all of the traditional ones, of course, because as when we were designing this program, we looked at the syllabi of all programs that are top ones around the world, and we wanted to ensure that we hit the right topics. So, of course, marketing and strategy and finance and law and operations and media analytics and technology and fantasy sports and gaming and all of that is it's all there, and not just one person teaching it, but it's very very kind of domain experts come in and teach those different topics. What I think is what another USP of GISP beyond the live projects and internships and all of the rigor that we bring in is what something I personally bring in is I'm a life coach. I've got a certification in life coaching and career coaching. So while we teach our students as a cohort, because that's what you do, I truly believe in our management, truly believes that each student is his or own set of fears, of limitations, of gifts, of dreams, of family challenges and mental health issues. And the more we can actually work with them as individuals, the better chance that they can reach their full potential and work through the things that might be holding them back, that might even be blind spots. So I personally spend a couple, hours individually with each student, and then I teach them different topics around your passion, your strengths, your purpose, so they can align what they're doing with the industry, with the part of the industry that works best for them as well. So that individual mentorship and coaching element is also incredibly essential for a student to reach success, not just professionally, but personally and emotionally as well. Oh, wonderful. I wanted to name a couple of faculties or people that have been coaching students at GISB. I mean, we've had over 300 to 400 leaders from the industry that have been around the GISB campus. So naming just a couple almost doesn't seem fair.
Hmm.
I'd say I'd give the organizations, everyone from JSW Sports to people from Reliance to people from a lot of the ISL teams, people from a lot of the IPL teams. You have people from Pro Kabaddi. You have a lot of people from agencies like Meraki, Indian Track, Cornerstone, um, Baseline Ventures. You have organizations like Premier League and as I said, Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal. Coming over and engaging with our students in some capacity. We have a number of people from the U.S. from Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, engage with our students. So it's across the board. It's not about, but for us, anybody who talks to our students has to be somebody who knows what their their topic that they're talking about, and they have to be somebody who genuinely cares about the students' growth. You can have a lot of intelligent people who know a lot about their particular topic, but you get them in front of students, and it's difficult for them to actually be compassionate and be a good teacher. But we make sure that everyone who comes into our program to teach is somebody who's generally a good person as well.
Yeah, that is important, because sports management is such a niche thing that there has to be connect between the teacher and the student. It is not like a traditional program where there's a lot of gap in the Indian education system between the teacher and the student. But here, being a very niche and a very specific thing, there has to be understanding what teacher and students have.
Yeah, and also with that is like we all learn from the people around us, right? So these students, and they're not just students; they're future industry leaders. We have people who are 22 all the way to 35 in our program. The people who left 6 years or 5 years of Ernst and Young and then decided they want to work in sports specifically. They've left. So it's these are young adults, and for me, but they all dream of working in sports. And now all the people coming to teach are leaders in the industry. Now, if they're leaders in the industry, you're watching how they act. Are they acting professional? Do they have integrity with time? Do they have integrity? Are they showing up on time? Are they ending on time? Are they shaking hands properly? Are they dressed nicely? Do they listen properly? Like when they're talking, are they giving you proper feedback? Is their slides looking nice? Everything matters, every detail matters. And one of the things I take from my mentors in the US is that even the smallest thing you do the best you possibly can. And so anybody who comes to teach, we try to make sure that they're the kind of person that the students should learn from. Because just learning information is not enough. It's learning how to be. This industry is nascent right now. We all of us are shaping the future of Indian sports right now, what it could be the next 10, 20, 40, 50 years. If we believe that we have that agency and that responsibility, then we all need to make sure that we do the small things right. And I want our students to see what that looks like. Because if we're taking it casually, they're going to take it casually too. And they're going to think, hey, I could be the head of XYZ organization, even if I kind of show up late or do whatever. And I want to say that that's not possible.
Correct. That's absolutely, utmost discipline is one thing that is every individual, irrespective of the professional background, personally should be having, being there on time and all of that. Neil, I want you to give one advice that you have received from your mentor and one advice you want to give to, the people or our viewers.
Yeah. So, I mean, one was what I just shared is like every detail counts. Like that's one. And the second one he shared with me, my mentor is a person named David Wright. He was my first boss at Major League Soccer. He's now the chief commercial officer of U.S. Soccer. Incredible person. He said that Neil, it's not what you do when I'm looking. It's not what you do when the coach is watching or the boss is watching. It's what you do when they're not watching. It's how you're preparing yourself. It's what you're doing behind the scenes to make sure that you're fully prepared for any situation in life. Don't do it because you want to look good. Don't do it because you want that person to notice you. Do it because you genuinely give a damn about what you're doing. So that was the kind of advice that he gave.
And one advice you want to give to young professionals coming up.
Know thyself. Know thyself. I feel like self-reflection, awareness is so underrated here in the sense of understanding what makes you feel alive, understanding your passion, understanding your core strengths, your superpowers, understanding your purpose, like what you want to contribute to the world, understanding your values, understanding what kind of environments light you up, are comfortable, are safe for you, understanding what environments are not safe for you, what kind of people are safe for you, what kind of people are not. Our lifetime is a long journey. Our career is 100,000 hours minimum. So we might as well enjoy those, feel safe, engaged, and alive in those as much as possible. This concept of just taking a job and seeing like, hey, let's see what happens. I feel like it's unfair to the so many 13, 14 years of education you've given yourself and the family support that you had. All of that is there so you have enough agency and opportunity to create and design your future in the way that meets your needs and that meets the best way you can serve this world. And so you can only do that unless you're self-aware and taking time to journal, taking time to meditate, taking time to have mentors, taking time to check in with yourself, taking time to take those hard decisions that don't always feel right because they're serving your higher self. That is what we need. And I think that there's not enough people in our environment teaching young people that this is also important. Because becoming rich, becoming successful is never fun if it comes at a cost to your values or it comes at a cost to your self worth or it comes at a cost to your emotional health or self-esteem.
You worked extensively in US and in India as well. What are the differences you have observed in the industry?
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot actually, but a couple that come to mind is that I feel that in the US, a lot of times they work bottom up. Some, at times they could get the systems right, get the university systems right, get the grassroots, the youth systems right, and slowly, and then you set the league up around that. Um, when it comes to India, at least my experience of the last 14, 15 years has been we work top down. We create a league. Cricket's a little different, I'd say. And I want to say that IPL is a little bit of an anomaly in a lot of ways, a beautiful anomaly. But I feel like we've kind of like just create a league and without the systems and the processes and all of the grassroots and all of the different elements of the pyramid that are kind of like set, and then we just hope that the league drives a lot of that growth, and that's quite different. One of the other areas I see is that in the U.S. it's a lot more the decision making is a lot more spread out. It's spread out to so many people, but I feel like in India because these promoters are putting in a lot of their own money, these private companies. There's a handful of people who are really making the decisions. Everyone else is kind of doing it. But these so there's a lot times you have to go to the top to actually get the bigger things done. Whereas in the US, there's so many different a lot of different layers of the organization have decision making power and that kind of responsibility. And on the other side, though, I'd say that because it's that way, I think things can move faster in India than America, and that's almost like something that maybe people wouldn't fully believe because they always say maybe things take a long time in India. But I really believe that if something wants to get done in India and all the stakeholders or most of the stakeholders are aligned with that, it can just get done. Whereas in America, there's so many people who are actually involved that you have to get on the same page for something to happen that it actually could take longer and there's a lot more opportunity for it to get stuck. Whereas in India, if you really want it to happen, it could just explode in a good way just right off the bat. And actually, that excites me. Like when ISL wanted to come, it just comes. When you want to create something like PKL, it's boom. And maybe these things would have taken a long time in America, whereas in India, it just happened.
Yeah, I agree with that. Neil, you've been a CEO of a football team. I want you to talk about that.
Hmm. Yeah, it was, it's like every little boy or maybe little girl's dream at some point when you love a sport to run your own team. And I got to do that for a couple of years with DSK Shivajans in the Liverpool FC International Academy. It was a team that was in the I League. We played and we were based out of Pune. And while I was there, yeah, it was an incredible project. That, in my opinion, at that time, it was the best football project in India, just because we had a Liverpool academy that had the likes of like Lorenzo Chante or Jerry Montanga and other great players that were in our academy that were training with Liverpool coaches that were giving their whole heart and soul into creating an environment for our young players to thrive. And then we had an I League team playing in the top division in India at the time that was a pathway for these young academy players to graduate to. Plus, we had a paid component of the program. So a lot of people who maybe not be as good to get scholarship, you come in and pay. So there's a sustainability part of it. Money was coming in, and we're offering value as well. So there's kids who are living there full time. We're paying a couple of lakhs to be there, and it was fantastic for them and great for us to get some money back into the program. So for me, I as a CEO, I got this grand opportunity to oversee that whole project. I had a great staff, And then we played in Balawadi Stadium, so getting that up to up to mark, playing against the likes of Mohanbagan or East Bengal or Bangalore, it was just something really special. So at that time, I just felt like yeah, it was kind of a dream come true.
Nice, nice. You spoke about sustainability for a while. I wanted to touch upon that a bit more. What are the factors that people at the top should look at in order to sustain a football team or a sports team in general for a long time?
Yeah, it's such an important part of just sport in general and Indian sport 100%, especially Indian football. I teach this course in my with my students called football finance, and we spend most of the time talking about sustainability in football, financial sustainability. And what happens in India right now is the five traditional revenue streams for Indian football clubs are not so strong. If you look at sponsorship or broadcast revenue or merchandising or player transfer fees or stadium and concessions and all of these things, it's not really to the level that's going to sustain the amount of spending that has to happen on players and operations and so on. So what happens now is that if I'm starting a new club, say, or if I have an existing club, I need to do an asset inventory. What are the assets that I have that um, that can actually generate revenue and add value and impact in the industry side? So, for example, at DSK, one of our assets was we already had the owners, the promoters had already a beautiful education institute called DSK School of International School of Design. So we already had accommodation. We already had a canteen, gym, pool, we already knew how to like accommodate people, and then they were ready to invest a bit more in the football pitch, and that's how we were able to run an academy there. If we had to build that from scratch, it would be very difficult. It'd almost kind of be like impossible. But every one of the promoters in Indian football has assets that they can turn into alternate forms of revenue if they are creative with how they do it. So not to rely heavily that the five traditional revenue streams are going to bring them enough money to be able to like sustain their club. They have to hire people who can look at other ways of doing it and bring that money in. Otherwise, this whole thing might not sustain as a whole because it's like how it's not philanthropy or charity. After one point, you want to see money flowing back in, and if you're not seeing that after a while, you start to lose interest.
Yes. I think that's a good insight for someone who's looking into grassroots football or even at the football at the top level. My next question is around IoT. I want you to touch upon that. Tell our viewers what is IoT and what does it do.
India on Track is a sports management and marketing company and also a development arm as well. So when I say the development part of it is training and development. So that's where we have programs like the NBA basketball schools, La Liga football schools. These are two of our bigger programs where we're actually in school and after school. We offer in school and after school training. We have centers all around India, and they've been you know great opportunities for students or young people to start getting better coaching in sports that they love, like basketball or football. Then there's the whole other side of it, which is consultancy, which is an arm that is what helped La Liga set up their offices in India in 2016, 2017, and kind of been helping them throughout their time in this country. Premier League does a lot of work in India, and we do a lot with them to support their programs, their partnerships, their even having Ranveer Singh as their ambassador, something that India on Track was very instrumental in getting done. We work very closely with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball has a first pitch program that we run with them, and they have an office here in India as well. So it's something we do hand in hand to get more kids connected to the sport of baseball. Um, and then we have an events team. So there's even in 2019 we did a La Liga international tournament basically in Kerala in Kochi, where we had Melbourne City, Girona FC, and Kerala Blasters playing in a match together or playing in a tournament of friendly, and it was a big one. And India on Track offered did that as well. And there's a series of different sort of events and conferences like the football movement and the sports movement. Some very world class, high profile events that we've been organizing over the years as well. So it's kind of a mouthful. India on Track does a lot. It's a full service agency and management company. So yeah, pretty much it's been great to be part of the leadership team there. And GISB is very much a very important part of the India on Track family because it's something that we feel like serves the industry that we're trying to serve, and it's a good opportunity for some of our better students or the right aligned students to join our company if this is something that feels like the right fit.
Okay. I think Neil, we've covered a lot of things. We've covered your background. We've covered the GISB, what GISB does. We've covered your role as a CEO, India on Track. I think now it's time to take a step back, chill, and have a rapid fire. Should we do a quick rapid fire?
Yes.
Yeah. One word to describe your journey in the sports industry.
Adventurous.
Okay. What's your favorite sports documentary?
Sunderland till I die.
Okay. Your go-to sports app or website for the latest updates?
Twitter or X.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One book that has had a significant impact on your professional life?
Shootout.
Shootout. Okay. My first book. What's your proudest professional achievement so far?
GISB.
Okay. Okay. One word to describe the future of sports in India.
Limitless.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any sports industry figure, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Muhammad Ali, just because he was able to transcend sport, and I feel like there's so much to learn from him.
Nice. Nice. If you had to pick one skill or trait that's most crucial for success in sports management, what would it be?
Communication.
Okay. If you could bring any retired athlete out of retirement for one last game, who would it be and why?
I would love to see David Beckham. He's the owner of Inter Miami, which is part of Major League Soccer, and now has the likes of Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi, of course, and Busquets. I would love to see him on that pitch one day.
Along with that?
Along with him, yeah.
Nice. In your opinion, what's the most underrated aspect of sports management?
Self-awareness.
Okay. I think one final question. What's the most memorable sporting event that you witnessed?
I was in the stadium during the 1999 FIFA Women's World Cup. It was in Los Angeles. U.S. played China, and the U.S. won in penalty shots, and it was unbelievable. Not only to be there with 100,000 people watching women's football, but it was also incredible what that did afterwards to get more young girls to play this sport, and it really made soccer mainstream in America. And it was I was 19 years old, and to be there in that stadium felt like I was part of something that was going to change the course of history for America.
Yeah, watching sports in a stadium is just takes you to another level, and I agree with that. I think that is it from my side. Neil, hope you had a good time, and to our viewers, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and keep watching Beyond the Field. Thank you.